I'm Katie Kurtz. I'm a writer in Seattle,
I'm Sarah Galvin, and I'm also a writer in Seattle.
and I'm really happy to be talking to you today, Sarah.
As am
Uh,
I.
so today I think marks about 70, 71 days into the stay-at-home order. And with, so that's over 2 months, losing track of time.
Me too. It feels simultaneously like it's been going on forever and like it's only been going on for like 3 days. It's so weird.
Yeah, so how are you feeling? How are you doing?
I have had a really difficult quarantine because my wife left me like a week into it. The first 2 weeks I I think I was maybe literally insane from grief. I don't know where I was. I don't remember. I apparently couldn't like put a sentence together. It was crazy. But then a wonderful friend of mine invited me to live in this little cottage behind his house that was originally designed as an art studio. So it's gorgeous. It has great light. Um, so I've just been kind of recuperating here. I've been reading a lot. Um, I've been able to write. I wrote an essay, which is sort of like an elegy for the relationship, but I am just now, I think, getting to a point where I can maybe write poetry again, which is what I usually do. Uh, but I've just been too raw. I mean, you have to be pretty in touch with your emotions to write a poem that's good, and I've just been wanting to read. Uh, I read the new N.K. Jemisin, The City We Became, and now I'm reading a Haruki Murakami, Sputnik Sweetheart, which is nice because that's also a tragic queer love story, but it's different than mine. It's supernatural. So I'm like, okay, like at least I didn't get like, you know, part of myself taken to another dimension by
At
evil
least there's
forces.
that.
Yeah.
And Murakami, I mean, he's such a good world builder too.
Oh, he's easily my favorite novelist. Uh, I try to like whenever I read one of his books, I try to read it like at least two or three um, by somebody else afterwards, just so that I don't like burn through them all at once. I've been like savoring his catalog for years now.
That's a good call. I have not been reading, and it's because I haven't had anything like pull me that way.
Hmm.
Um, but I think Murakami would be a good one.
Yeah.
Um,
This is a really, I think my favorite one of his that I've read so far was Hard Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. Then, of course, Wind Up Bird Chronicle.
yes,
Yeah,
perfection.
totally.
And what has the kind of journey been like for you in terms of obviously early on a breakup early in the pandemic is going to send things into a whole other direction. Um, was it almost kind of nice to have the world be imploding at the same time?
In a way, yeah. I mean, I remember, I mean, this obviously is like the worst heartbreak I've ever felt. I didn't, because I'd never been married before. I didn't know, I didn't know, for instance, that like grief could cause like physical pain. But I had some breakups in the past where I remember thinking how inappropriate it seemed that people were still just going about their lives. I mean, it just felt like everything should have stopped. And there was something affirming about actually waking up the day after that happened and seeing that the windows were all boarded up, nobody was out on the street. It was kind of like that's exactly where I'm at.
Like
Um,
the
yeah, and it's
the
also that
external world looked like your internal world.
totally. And also I I don't think I would have been capable of going to work those first couple of weeks. So it was nice that, you know, I'd been temporarily laid off. My job is actually resuming again this Monday, which is great. But yeah, I couldn't have I couldn't get out of bed. Like I'm actually really glad that I was able to just I didn't have to make any arrangements at work. I just have been chilling out and reading and, you know, talking to people as much as I can.
So what is your writing process?
Well, usually I mean, I keep sort of like a mental record of uh, just particularly like phrases from conversation, like sentences that just I find compelling or they stick in my head, something that surprises me. Um, and that's usually going to be like the first line. I don't I don't ever sit down and think, now I'm going to write a poem about X or Y because yeah, like when I teach poetry, one of the first things I tell people is like, um, if you know what your poem's if you think you know what your poem's going to be, it's like dead in the water. So you got to get that first, like I do that first line, and then I just kind of follow a train of associations, just like kind of intuit where the next line is going to go. I usually I like to be in sort of like a high energy, state of mind. Usually, like, I mean, anyone would notice like that sex is a very prevalent theme in my work, and that's because like I get like, I mean, it's kind of hard to describe, but I feel like that's the same place where that comes from for me is the place where art comes from. Like it's almost like a way of, interacting sexually with the world in a kind of a Walt Whitman fucking the ocean way.
That makes sense.
And sometimes I'll work on a poem for 2 weeks and it will be mediocre. And then sometimes I'll work for half an hour and something great comes out, and I just never know. I mean, there's always an element of. I mean, I've gotten to a point where I can at least kind of tell when to stop if a poem's not going to work out. But there's still an element of like, 1,000 monkeys with typewriters, which is why I don't I don't usually get discouraged anymore if a poem turns out like shit. I mean, unless I've been working on it for days and days and days, because I'm just like, if you don't, it's almost like if you don't get that poem out of the way, the good one can't come.
Yes.
And there's certain things that I like to have. Or I mean, I like to listen to music. I got to be near a window, especially if I can watch people out the window.
Do you ever find old poems and wonder who wrote them?
Oh,
Poems of yours.
no. I always know it was me.
Or the state of, I mean, because there's times when I look at things and I cannot conjure the state of mind I was in at the time of writing it. Do you ever
Oh
have that
yeah,
experience?
that certainly happens. Um, I well, like when I look at, I try to save all my drafts because you never know what you're going to be able to like harvest for later. So the main reason I'll look at drafts is because I'm like going through looking for something, and it's really interesting. Like often, if I return to something, I'll be able to see what it was that I actually liked about it that kind of made me focus on it. Um, you know, that made me think that devoting my time to writing this poem was going to be productive, that it might turn out. And often I'm able to see, like, get perspective on what that was in a way where I can actually, find a way to reframe whatever that thing was that makes it good. And then sometimes things that I like, I'll look at them, things that I like when I'm writing them, I'll look at them later and they're just garbage. And usually that's because I tried to write when I was too emotional.
Okay. So you've developed an awareness about the best emotional state for you to write.
Yeah, because you got to be honest, you got to be candid. But one common misconception about poetry is that it's like an overflow of emotion, when in reality it's more like building a chair. Like, it's a structure. It's a complex structure, and it's different than a chair in that it's more than the sum of its parts, but it is not just barfing emotions. I think the best analogy that I've heard is that it's like juggling. And you've got various aesthetic elements. I mean, and you've got the subject matter, you've got like the words that you're using, all these different things. And the goal is to just kind of get as many objects going, as many balls in the air as possible without them all come tumbling down. Because it turns into something magic. Like it turns into something exponential.
There's an old poem of yours that I came across that really felt like it resonated with this time now, that I wonder if you could read. I just think of it as that ass poem.
Oh, sure. That could be any number of my poems. I know what you're talking
well,
about.
it's in the title.
This is called "That Ass is Etched into the Universe Forever." Vibrations are infinite, so every time you slap an ass, your appreciation of that ass is etched into the universe forever. This intersection of sex and math is where I'd expect to find the erogenous parts of concepts, but somehow they're nowhere to be seen. Every object designed by a human is in some way a device for intimacy with the abstract. The longer I live, the more convinced I am that every object is invisibly but outrageously effective, except for manicured lawns. Every time you obsessively mow your lawn, the realm of the abstract is waiting for you to fall asleep so it can masturbate.
I don't know about you, but I've been thinking about a lot of past lovers lately, and mining areas that I haven't mined ever. Are you having that experience right now of just kind of like things pulling up from your subconscious that you hadn't thought about, especially with sex?
Oh, so the main reason that I've been unable to write is that when you're in love with someone, I mean, like, I when I got, well, I mean, like, during this relationship, knowing that I was going to get married, I completely made peace with the fact that I was never going to sleep with anybody else again. And I was content with that. I mean, I have done my sexual bucket list was I've done everything I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, this is great. I am in love with this person. We give each other everything we need in that way. So she became sex to me. And right now, when I try to go to where I normally do, to get to that state of mind, like the part of that where I can write, it's just too painful. It's just, it's all I can feel is loss. Um, but the other emotion that allows me to write, or that fuels my writing, is a particular type of rage. I consider, like one thing that writing really does for, like, one of the most important things that it does for me is, uh, it it's a way of taking revenge on the aspects of the world and our existence that are, just inherently at odds with human happiness. When something awful happens to me, writing about it, um, is a means of having revenge on that event. So that's probably, these first few poems that I write, that's probably where I'm gonna be, and that's what I'm kind of trying to get to. And it might sound crazy to, like, intentionally let yourself be angry, but it it's such a good way of externalizing that and turning it into something productive. And I find that often I get I might still be mad that something bad happened to me, but I have a sense of resolution and a sense of ownership of that experience. I think that art, when art works, any kind of art, it's it's a means of imposing order, and structure onto this existence that, I mean, those are human concepts. The universe doesn't have anything like that.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, when we impose order or structure on something awful, it can be beautiful, or at least it can give you a sense of, peace or resolution. Or, I mean, I always think of something that my uncle said. He he teaches at the Iowa Writers Workshop, and he had this student who was just writing these super brutal poems about her life. And he was trying to give her some aesthetic guidance, and she was saying, like, well, how else can I write this? This is exactly what happened. And he's like, well, you know the crucifixion was grotesque and hideous, but that's why we have paintings of it, because
Mhm.
they can be beautiful.
And I mean, there's so much to be angry about in the world right now. I have a hard time. I've been joking. I want to make one of those like little spin, charts so I could just pick one for any given day. So I'm not trying to like feel the anger of just, everything right now. Is that, do you feel that, I mean, I'm guessing that for you right now, that anger is located more like on a personal level with your relationship, but are you feeling that with everything that's going on?
Honestly, I even the pandemic, really. I mean, I it's it's been so overshadowed by this, like, personal apocalypse.
I can see that. I can really see that.
Um, I mean, the world would have ended for me regardless of whether this was going on. Uh, I have thoughts about it. Um, I mean, I for sure am angry about the way that it was mishandled. Um, I mean, pretty much everything the so-called president we have right now does fills me with rage, like, almost to an extent that I can't write a good poem about it.
Yeah.
Um, but I, oddly enough, right before the divorce happened, I was actually really happy that week. Like before the quarantine happened and my wife started acting all weird, my thought was, well, first of all, I thought, as long as I have her, I don't care about anything else that happens. Like, as long as I have her, I'm a millionaire. I don't need anything else. I wasn't bothered by the idea of not being able to go to a show or have a party, because I knew that I would wake up with her every day and that was all that I needed. And I also thought that after this, people are going to have a renewed appreciation for art, particularly like live arts events. There's so much good that can come out of this. I mean, I am a little bit concerned about, entering another dark age or something like that, but it could also have the opposite effect where people really see that we need better social services and that we need more funding for, basically people not financially secure that have been, for generations unable to make a buck because their parents aren't rich. Like, those people need our help. Like, I am hoping that Americans will look to other countries that are handling things better in a variety of ways and not think just about, how can we control a pandemic, but like, how can we improve this infrastructure in any way? I mean, like, how can we help people? I hope that this will make people think more about like the benefits of socialized medicine and even education. And like, so many Americans, like, the word socialism is like this awful thing to them, but that's
Yeah,
not.
it needs to be rebranded. We need to
It
figure
does.
out, we gotta have to figure out like social safety net.
It does.
Um,
And I think, like, straight up socialism is not even what we're talking about.
yeah.
Like democratic socialism. But anyway, like, I think that a lot of good can come out of this. Um, even though
So,
it's been just woefully mismanaged.
fuck. Yeah. Uh, I'm trying, where I've been on the wheel the past couple days is around white nationalism. That's a whole other thing. Won't go into it, but I feel like as a white person, we have to pay attention to what's happening there,
Yeah.
because it's ramping up and it's very scary, and I'm very like concerned about what it's signaling. Um, so anyway, a little transition, ask a different question here. So at what week, if you can remember, did you have your portrait taken by Stephen? How many weeks in?
Let's see, that would have been 2 weeks ago, I think.
And what was the experience for you of just, answering to the call and then wanting to be part of it? And
Oh, well, that was really cool. So at some point early on, I don't remember exactly, but my friend Trenton Flock um, invited me to stay on his air mattress for a few days. I hadn't yet found like a more permanent spot, so I went and did that. And he was participating in the project during that time, and it seemed really cool. And so then when I saw Steven post on Facebook that he was looking for people to participate, I was like, yeah, I want to do it. And by then I'd found like, this really sweet little place where I'm staying right now. And it was so good for me because I wanted to be creative, but I definitely couldn't go there emotionally yet. And I wanted it seemed like a project that could help people feel less isolated. I mean, it was a really great, like, low impact way for me to be creative and engage in creativity and feel like I was doing something, something good for the world.
Yeah. And the decision to go topless, was there even a thought there, or did it just?
It's not like, my wife and I ever really, like, worried about, like, neither of us were, like, jealous or possessive in that kinda way, but I would have been, I guess, reluctant to be topless in a photo maybe because I wouldn't have wanted to hurt her inadvertently in any way by doing that. I can't and she's not even jealous, but I just probably wouldn't have done that. So I thought, like, in like, I was trying to think of some small way to celebrate my freedom, even though I didn't really want that yet. It felt like the thing to do.
Yeah. Um, it feels strange to even call it topless because it feels like it points out like this gender difference between how men and women can, or, cis and binary and not, like it seems to say that there's a difference there. I don't know. I
Oh,
don't even
yeah.
want to call you topless. Like it's
I just think it's so fucking stupid that people have to wear clothes at all. I mean, that's another like I my poetry involves a lot of nudity because it's just amazing to me how you can make something risque without even saying anything sexual. I like drawing attention to the fact that, I mean, like, that in this culture, nudity is treated as being inherently sexual. And that's just as stupid in my mind as, like, the Victorians putting little skirts on their furniture to hide the legs. Like, it's just so stupid.
yeah. And I took I've been taking so many selfies, and I took a nude selfie that was just really matter of fact. Like there was nothing to it. It just like me in the mirror, just like boom. And there's something about that photo where there's a matter of factness to it that's not, it's like you don't really get the sense that you're vibing anything one way or the other.
Yeah, and I obviously when somebody's taking, like, a series of you have time for your mind to kinda drift around. Like, I wasn't really like, I think probably the best photos happen when you're not really thinking about it too hard. Um, and my mind was kind of just cycling in and out of different things, and if you zoom in on my face in that photo, you can see that I actually look really sad. Um, I mean, it's a really honest visual representation of exactly what I was feeling, like, just this desire to be free or just have something to celebrate, or, like, maybe, like, a resolve to be here, do something, be who I am, despite the fact that I'm just fucking devastated right now. I mean, I was just like, I am I am gonna survive this, and I'm gonna look hot doing it, and I'm not gonna, like, if I can't make my own art right now, I'm gonna help somebody else make theirs because I'm not letting this crush me.
Well, it's a good portrait of you. I mean, as I'm getting to know you, I think. um and have you had other people respond and say, or kind of recognize you in the portrait in a way that feels accurate?
It's been really nice seeing people comment on how hot it is that don't know me. I'm like, still got it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would feel good.
Yeah, somebody was like, "Oh, Steven, some of these are kind of hot." He was like, so that felt good. And of course, everybody just saying like how well the lighting turned out, and like, yeah, I mean it it was validating in a variety of ways. One of which was just feeling participate and contribute to any kind of art that's connecting with, that people are able to connect with, just feels really good.
And speaking of art to connect with, there's a newer poem. So you're doing a collaboration with a musician right now?
Yeah, there's this musician named Eric Paget who's played with Laurie Goldston, and he was in KK and His Weathered Underground. And he approached me a few months ago looking for somebody to write lyrics. So right now we're talking about turning some of my poems into songs I'm super excited about. So here's a newer one. This is one of the ones that we were considering. So this is called How to Ask Someone on a Date. I hate when from a distance someone looks like a beautiful naked woman, but as they approach, you see they're a 12-year-old in a flesh colored bodysuit who's come to hold your hand while you die. This has never happened to me, but I've seen it happen to you at least twice. You screamed for so long both times. You screamed until I rest.
I last night wanted to go find a field to scream in for a long time.
What's that?
Last night I had the impulse to go find a field to scream in.
I have been feeling that way myself. And yeah, I think poetry is the only way that I've ever found to scream in that way and have it feel the way that I wanted it to.
And so where are you at right now? You're gonna write a poem today, and then any sense of, I mean, you're in the coming out of having been leveled. And you mentioned earlier that moving forward, your poetry will look a lot differently. I know it's hard to have any sense of that, but do you have any sense of what that looks like for you?
Well, um, when something awful happens, um, I tend to write. It's almost like the more pain I'm in, the funnier the poems are. Um, it's actually sad. I so about 5 years ago, shortly after I met my ex, actually, my mom had a horrible relapse, and it really messed me up. I, I don't need to get into that too much. That went on for like 3 years. Um, and so most of what I wrote during that time is like very dark, funny poems, which felt great to write. I mean, writing always feels wonderful to me, but it was only in the month before I been able to write love poems again. I was actually working on this series of poems about Marianne and about how it feels to know that you're going to be with somebody forever.
Mm.
It was a celebration of that, and of finally feeling like myself again and finally being happy again. And
Writing poems knowing that you're going to be with somebody for the rest of your life. I totally forgot, and that feeling of when you are like, oh, okay, this is what my future looks like, and then when it's ripped away, um and you don't know. You don't know. Like that trajectory is gone, and so you're recreating yourself in this whole new way.
Yeah, I mean, I loved being married. I just because of my family and the way that a variety of things, I'd never had like I never really felt like I had like a nothing had ever felt. It was the first time that I'd ever really felt like something was reliable, like that I had something I really could stand on, um, or like that I could count on. And I mean, I even like I got to have a whole new family. I loved her family,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, when I wake up in the morning and she was there next to me, and I would think of many years of that to come, you know, the fact that I would always wake up that way, it gave me so much joy. And I told her so all the time. Like every day I tell her this is the best part of my day, you know, when we were together. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what my art is going to be like now. Uh, Knowing that something like that can disappear. Probably hilarious. You're probably gonna write the funniest shit ever.
Oh my God.
Historically, that's been the pattern.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know, I mean, and you seem like a very serious, deep person. And I am as well, but I have to pair that with being like a fucking like make myself laugh, write funny things, find ways to laugh really hard, and um, like that the both like you can't stay in one for too long.
Yeah, it's true.
So your next move is you're going to be a comedian.
Yeah. Um, Probably not that, but I do have an I so I just finished a book, um, and I'm working right now on getting that out. Um, Actually, I had an agent who wanted to represent me before the quarantine, but um, apparently, uh, the big publishing houses right now are pretty much only buying things that they they know are going to sell, like Harry Potter. And you know, my work's pretty funny and accessible, but it's definitely not that. So that's another shitty thing the quarantine did is like you can't pitch to Penguin without an agent. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep contacting agents, and I'm gonna keep this is it's I've been so lucky. My first all of my books so far have been solicited. This is the first time I've actually like had to go shop a manuscript around, um, which is awesome, and I'm so lucky. But I sort of don't know how to do it. So if you're watching this and you run a small press, you know, give me a call.
We'll have your email on the bottom there. And where can people buy your books or order them from right now?
Elliott Bay. Oh wait, fuck. Are they even no? Oh, I know. So my last book, Ugly Time, was originally out on Grandma, but then that press closed and the catalog was absorbed by Black Ocean. So you can now order Ugly Time through the Black Ocean website.
Okay.
And that is a great thing to do because they, just like every other business, are having a rough time.
And then your other book, Three Einsteins?
You can still get that on that's only available used right now. It's actually out of print. Um, but right before Grandma closed, we had done like a new edition of that also had some essays, and I was really excited about it, but then the press closed. So again, if you're watching this and you'd like to put out an expanded edition of the Three Einsteins, number 11 on SPD for 2 months. Hit
Oh,
me up.
wow. And then, as long as we are talking about distribution and those matters, I mean, are you kind of thinking of other ways to perform, distribute your work, do things differently?
Yeah, I've been making some poetry videos, just videos of myself reading that I'm gonna uh my friend Webb Kroll filmed me, and Eric Paget, the guy that I mentioned I was collaborating with, said he could maybe do like some simple music to go with it. And then people have been doing Zoom readings. I'm
Mhm.
gonna definitely give that a try.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. It was really great talking to you and learning more about your work, and look forward to buying copies of your books.
Thank you so much. And it's been this project was the perfect thing to come along in my life at this moment, and it's been reminding me that there's this wonderful community that we have here, and so many talented people. And after I saw Steven's last show at the factory, I was just like, oh my God, new favorite photographer. So the opportunity to work with him was really exciting. And thank you guys.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's hard to meet new people in the pandemic, so it's been really great to meet new people and meet you.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see the other interviews and see the rest of the photos. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.